Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine a library, right? But not your usual kind with dusty books.
Right.
This one's, well, it's supposedly woven from pure energy, and it holds every thought, every word, every single event,
Uh-huh.
and even every potential possibility across all of time and space. For like every consciousness ever. It's a huge concept, often called the Akashic Records.
It really is a profound idea. You see versions of it across so many spiritual traditions. Think of it like a universal database, maybe, or a cosmic internet.
Cosmic internet, I like that.
Yeah, it's not physical, but exists as this energetic or vibrational field
Yeah.
within something the ancient texts call the Akasha. Basically, the complete blueprint of everything.
Okay, and for this deep dive, the sources you shared, they take this amazing, spiritual concept and give it this, well, frankly, this really chilling twist.
That's exactly it. Our source material doesn't just stick to the traditional understanding. It pivots pretty hard into a compelling but dark conspiracy theory.
So what's the mission today?
Well, first, we need to understand what these records are traditionally believed to be. Then, and this is the crucial part, we unpack this darker idea from the sources. That this ultimate record isn't just passive, not just a spiritual thing, but could be secretly controlled.
Controlled.
Yeah, or manipulated, maybe even actively rewritten by unseen forces for their own hidden agenda.
Wow. Okay, that's quite a leap. It bridges these really deep spiritual ideas with some deep paranoia about control, doesn't it?
It certainly does.
So this deep dive is really designed for you, our listener, to help you navigate these pretty complex claims, get the core ideas from the source material, and see where that traditional view ends and this conspiracy narrative really kicks in. Ready to jump in?
Let's do it. It's fascinating to start with the foundation, the word Akashic itself.
Where does that come from?
It's from Sanskrit, the word Akasha. It means something like ether or space, the fundamental sort of substratum of reality.
Oh.
And in esoteric thought, the records aren't physical books, like you said. They reside in this field. So yeah, less a library, more a non-physical, energetic database.
A defined hard drive, maybe.
A cosmic hard drive. Yeah, okay, that clicks. So according to the sources, what's actually stored on this cosmic hard drive? What's in the Akashic Records, traditionally speaking?
Everything. I mean, the sources emphasize everything.
Like, give me examples.
Okay, so every thought, every word, every emotion, every action, and all consciousness that has ever existed.
Seriously, every stray thought.
That's the traditional concept, yeah. And every event, from the Big Bang down to the smallest, ripple you make tossing a stone in a pond today, every single historical moment, every interaction.
And it's not just the past locked away, is it? The sources hinted there was more.
Absolutely. It's said to hold every potential future, all the probabilities branching out.
And it contains the complete journey of individual souls, past lives, karmic patterns, life purpose, and even the history of the cosmos itself, planets, stars, the whole unfolding story of the universe.
That's immense. But this idea, it's not unique to one specific group, is it? The sources mentioned it echoes elsewhere.
Exactly. You find these parallels all over, like Vedic texts talk about Akasha carrying impressions, almost like a subtle record.
Okay.
Ancient Egypt had ideas about divine scribes, maybe the Book of Thoth. In Judaism and Christianity, you get references to a book of life, or God remembering everything.
Uh-huh.
Even many indigenous and shamanic traditions speak about accessing ancestral memories, deep knowledge held somewhere beyond the everyday.
And in the West, there were specific figures who really brought this concept into wider awareness, right?
Definitely. Helena Blavatsky was key, incorporating the term into theosophy. Rudolf Steiner talked about directly perceiving these records. And probably the most famous, Edgar Cayce, the sleeping prophet. He claimed he accessed the records in his trance states, giving thousands of readings. He really cemented the idea in the modern New Age movement.
So traditionally, if someone wanted to access this cosmic library, how would they supposedly do it, according to the traditional view in the sources?
It's consistently described as a spiritual thing, an energetic attunement, not like logging into a computer.
So no keyboard needed?
Yeah, no. Methods usually involve things like deep meditation, entering altered states of consciousness, maybe astral projection, or working with psychics or readers who are skilled at, vibrationally connecting.
And the purpose. It's definitely not about, say, getting next week's lottery numbers.
No, the source is really clear on this.
Yeah.
The traditional purpose is explicitly spiritual growth. It's about healing past wounds, understanding your karma, gaining wisdom, remembering your soul's true nature.
So not for material gain.
Definitely not. Using it for manipulation or just personal gain is seen as completely against its sacred purpose, violating the whole point.
Okay, so we have this vast, spiritual, traditionally immutable concept, a universal record for growth. Now, here's where the sources take that idea and twist it, because the idea of manipulation, of rewriting it, that's totally absent from the traditional view.
Completely absent.
So where does this conspiracy theory even start? What's the leap? How do we get from spiritual library to a secret control room?
It's basically, it seems to be a fusion. A fusion of that profound esoteric idea with something very modern.
Yeah.
Deep-seated distrust. Distrust of power structures, governments, big institutions, the elites. The thinking seems to be, if there's an ultimate source of knowledge and therefore power like the Akashic Records, well then someone, whoever they are, must be secretly controlling it.
Right, it taps into that whole truth is hidden trope, doesn't it? If it's not common knowledge, if it's hard to access, it must be suppressed.
Exactly. The truth is out there, but they buried it. And we all kind of get that fundamental equation that drives so much, right? Control of information equals control of power.
Absolutely.
So the Akashic Records, that's the ultimate information, the ultimate power source. If you could access and control that, you'd have unbelievable influence over reality itself. That potential alone fuels the idea of a secret fight to grab and keep that control.
And the sources show this theory doesn't just pop up on its own. It latches onto other already existing conspiracy narratives.
Oh yeah, definitely. It often weaves in threads about secret societies, the Illuminati, Freemasons, Rosicrucians groups, supposedly hoarding ancient hidden knowledge.
Or ancient bloodlines.
That too. The idea that certain families inherit secret knowledge or abilities, maybe even direct access.
What about government stuff? Things like M-Cultura or remote viewing? Do those get linked in?
Absolutely. It connects right into the narratives about government cover-ups, clandestine psychic programs, whispers about CIA or NSA remote viewing projects, attempts to weaponize consciousness. The theory basically asks, if those programs were real, wouldn't their ultimate goal be the Akashic Records? For predicting the future or maybe even controlling it?
And I saw extraterrestrials mentioned too. How do they fit in?
Yeah, in some versions, ETs are involved, either as the original custodians of the records, maybe, or as beings who gave certain humans the tech to access them, but always with some kind of hidden agenda, usually tied to controlling humanity.
And the internet must have just poured gasoline on this whole fire.
Oh, hugely. The internet was like a super connector. It let people with these niche ideas find each other, share bits of information, find resonance.
Build a bigger picture.
Exactly. They could collectively stitch together a much more specific, more detailed, and frankly more malevolent conspiracy framework around the whole Akashic Records concept. It shifted from just a vague sense of hidden knowledge to this detailed narrative of active, orchestrated control.
Okay, so let's get into the specifics then. What are the core claims of this chilling theory? If someone believes the records are controlled, what do they actually think is happening?
Okay, claim number 1. The records are real, not just a metaphor, and crucially, they are systematically accessible. Not just through fuzzy spiritual means for anyone, but in a targeted, reliable way. Yeah, but only for a select few.
And how? How do these select few supposedly get this special access, if not just meditation?
The sources suggest a few ways. Sometimes it's secret physical locations like specific sites on Earth, energy vortexes maybe, that act as access points.
Okay.
Advanced technology is a big one, maybe leftover tech from Atlantis or alien technology, or even super advanced quantum computing interfaces that can somehow tap into this energetic field, bypassing the need for spiritual discipline.
Wow.
And some theories also throw in inherited spiritual gifts, specific bloodlines having innate access.
That's right. So claim 2 follows from that.
Yeah.
This access isn't open source, it's exclusive and secret.
Fiercely exclusive, yeah. Kept under wraps. Not for the general public, ever.
So, guarded. How would you even guard something like that?
Exactly. The claim is it's guarded by these oath-bound secret societies we mentioned, and with sophisticated security measures. Not just fences and guards, but energetic shields, psychic deterrents, stuff like that. Limited strictly to the chosen few who are part of the controlling group.
Okay, and here's where it gets really disturbing, right? The central claim isn't just that this elite group reads the records, but that they actively manipulate them, that they can rewrite them.
That's the absolute core of the conspiracy. The assertion is that the information itself, the very record of reality, is being altered, changed, to shape reality according to their will, which is seen as this fundamental violation of cosmic law of free will.
How would that even work? What are the alleged techniques for manipulating something like that?
The sources detail several pretty alarming alleged methods. One is rewriting history. Some call it temporal distortion, meaning allegedly erasing inconvenient truths from the record. Things like, say, evidence of highly advanced ancient civilizations, Atlantis and Lemuria, or maybe suppressing technologies that could free humanity, or even covering up our true origins, like potential extraterrestrial links.
So they claim the history books we read are based on a doctored cosmic record.
That's the idea. They supposedly fabricate narratives, subtly shift historical events in the record itself, creating the version of history we end up learning.
Okay, that's one way. What else?
Another major claim is controlling the future and destiny. Basically, pre-programming reality.
How?
By reading the future probabilities stored in the records, seeing what could happen, and then actively intervening or programming specific outcomes they desire.
Like predicting the stock market.
Yes, predicting global events markets, natural disasters, wars to position themselves for profit or power. But it goes deeper. Influencing the destinies of key individuals.
Like leaders.
Leaders, potential disruptors, subtly altering their life paths or karmic lessons recorded in the Akasha, and also actively suppressing positive potentialities.
Suppressing good stuff.
Yeah, blocking timelines where humanity might achieve, say, mass liberation, or discover free energy, or develop technologies or spiritual insights that would challenge the controller's power. Right. And they even talk about inserting false flags or deliberate misinformation directly into the Akashic field itself.
Why?
To muddy the waters, to create confusion for anyone else trying to access genuine insight, making it harder to discern truth.
And your sources specifically mentioned the Mandela effect as being key evidence for this whole reality rewriting idea.
Ah, yes, the Mandela effect. For proponents of this theory, this is huge. It's that phenomenon where large groups of people share the same clear, detailed memory of something that, well, factually isn't correct.
Like the Berenstain Bears spelling.
Exactly, remembering it as Berenstein, or that famous Darth Vader line,
Huh?
everyone remembers Luke, I am your father.
But it's actually, no, I am your father.
Right, or remembering specific corporate logos differently, or historical events unfolding slightly differently than the official record shows.
So how do the theorists explain that?
They interpret these shared false memories, not as simple mistakes of human memory, which we should say is complex and fallible, but as literal glitches in the matrix.
Glitches?
Yeah, residual memories left over from a timeline that has been subtly altered or edited within the Akashic Records by these manipulators. It's presented as direct proof that reality is being tampered with right now.
Okay, wow. So if this manipulation is supposedly happening,
Yeah.
what's the motive? Why would anyone go to such lengths?
The motivation, according to the sources pushing this theory, is pretty straightforward, if utterly megalomaniacal. Exploitation for ultimate power, wealth, and control.
So concrete things.
Yeah. Economic domination, imagine knowing future market movements. Political and social manipulation, orchestrating global events to suit their agenda. Technological monopoly, suppressing any revolutionary tech that could upset their control systems.
Yeah.
But maybe the most sinister motive alleged is spiritual enslavement.
What does that mean?
Manipulating humanity's collective understanding of its own spiritual nature, its potential. Keeping people spiritually asleep, basically.
Yeah.
Preventing a mass awakening that would break their control grid.
And who are the alleged culprits? Who are these controllers? The sources probably list the usual suspects for these kinds of theories.
Pretty much. It varies a bit depending on which version you read, but common candidates include ancient bloodlines, secretive groups like the Illuminati or shadowy globalists, secret government agencies, or the deep state. And sometimes, yeah, extraterrestrial overlords get blamed, reptilians, greys, that sort of thing. Or even dark occultists, sorcerers, using forbidden magic.
So the grand goal, the end game, according to this theory, is just total control.
Total control over human consciousness and reality itself.
Yeah.
Creating a kind of controlled reality matrix where free will is basically an illusion, all orchestrated by these hidden puppeteers. That's the terrifying picture painted.
It's a huge, all-encompassing theory. So if these claims are floating around, what kind of evidence do the proponents actually offer? What do they point to in the world as proof?
Right, they basically interpret a whole range of phenomena, things that often seem totally unrelated, as proof of this hidden manipulation, like unexplained historical anomalies, the whole mystery around missing or incredibly advanced ancient civilizations, Atlantis, Lemuria, or lost technologies.
Right.
These aren't just seen as gaps in our knowledge. They're interpreted as evidence of records being deliberately erased from the collective Akashic memory, wiped clean so we don't rediscover dangerous knowledge.
Or sudden changes in history.
Yeah, points where human history seems to take a sharp, unexplained turn, or periods of apparent regression. Those are sometimes blamed on deliberate resets or rewrites in the Akashic field, steering humanity down a controlled path. And that feeling many people have that we've lost ancient wisdom or innate spiritual abilities, blamed on that info being removed from the record.
What about things like synchronicity, those meaningful coincidences?
Those get reinterpreted too, not as random chance or some benign interconnectedness, but as signs of a script. Evidence that events are being guided by pre-programmed Akashic information, pushing things towards an outcome the controllers want.
And if a prophecy fails, if someone predicts something big and it doesn't happen?
That's sometimes explained away as the manipulators actively changing the future probabilities in the records after the prophecy was made, showing their power to alter destiny and nullify warnings. Even deja vu gets pulled in. That weird feeling of having experienced something before, interpreted not as a neurological hiccup, but as a glimpse of the pre-programmed reality, or maybe a residual memory fragment from a timeline that was just altered.
And circling back to the Mandela effect that's presented as the smoking gun, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's held up as the most tangible, ongoing proof. Those widespread shared false memories are seen as literal glitches, remnants left behind when the official timeline gets edited in the Akashic Records.
Okay, what else? Unexplained well.
Yeah, when certain individuals or groups accumulate massive wealth or power seemingly out of nowhere, or make incredibly prescient decisions, that's attributed to secret access to future information from the records. Insider trading on a cosmic scale, basically, allowing them to predict markets, crises, opportunities.
And you mentioned whistleblower accounts in the sources.
Yeah, there are claims from people who say they were insiders, ex-members of secret occult groups, former agents from shadowy government programs who supposedly got disillusioned.
Right.
They claim to have witnessed or even participated in this manipulation. The sources do note, though, that these accounts are almost always unverifiable. They usually pop up in fringe websites or obscure books, making them really hard to assess objectively.
And finally, even hidden messages in movies or art.
Yeah, that gets interpreted too. Cryptic symbols or themes are seen as hidden warnings, or maybe acknowledgments slipped in by artists or creators who are in the know, but can't speak openly because of the control system.
Wow. It really does manage to weave together so many disparate threads into this one. Huge, dark tapestry. But, okay, let's pull back. Let's get skeptical. What do science, psychology, even the traditional esoteric views say about these claims? What are the counter-arguments?
Well, the biggest hurdle, the one the sources really emphasize for the conspiracy claims, is the complete lack of empirical evidence.
No proof.
No verifiable proof. The Akashic Records, even traditionally, are a metaphysical concept, right? So claims of physical access points, or technology interfacing with an energy field, or actually rewriting reality. These are inherently untestable by current scientific methods.
Right.
There's no objective data, no observable phenomena you can point to, beyond subjective interpretation or seeing correlations and jumping to causation.
And crucially, a lot of that evidence they point to, psychology has pretty solid explanations for it, right? Cognitive biases.
Exactly. Let's break a few down. Confirmation bias is huge here.
Seeing what you want to see.
Pretty much. You tend to notice and interpret things in a way that confirms what you already believe, and you ignore stuff that contradicts it. So if you believe in the conspiracy, you'll see proof everywhere. Then there's patternicity, or apophenia.
Finding patterns.
Yeah, our brains are hardwired to find meaningful patterns, even in random noise or unrelated data. Those complex synchronicities might just be chance, but our minds desperately want to find a narrative, an intention behind it.
And assuming A caused B just because A happened first.
Right, the post hoc ergo propter hoc fallacy. Assuming causation just based on sequence or correlation without any actual evidence of a direct causal link. And this one is really important for things like the Mandela effect, memory confabulation, and suggestibility.
Meaning our memories aren't perfect recordings.
Not even close. Memory is fluid, it's reconstructive. Every time you recall something, you're essentially rebuilding it. And it's highly susceptible to errors, to filling in gaps unconsciously, and to being influenced by later information or suggestions from others.
So shared false memories, or memories changing over time, that doesn't automatically mean timelines are being edited. It could just be memory being memory.
That's the very strong alternative explanation for cognitive science, yes. It shows how complex and, frankly, fallible our memory systems are. The sources also point out that the conspiracy theory often involves a fundamental misinterpretation of the traditional esoteric ideas themselves.
How so?
The traditional focus is on spiritual reading for growth, not cosmic rewriting for control. The idea that the records could be changed actually goes against their supposedly immutable, complete nature in many of those original systems.
And there's that logical problem. The proof by absence thing.
Yeah, claiming the very lack of hard evidence for the conspiracy is actually proof that there's a really effective cover-up.
It's circular.
Totally circular. It makes the claim conveniently unfalsifiable. But without any initial verifiable proof to begin with, a lack of evidence is just a lack of evidence, not proof of suppression.
And just thinking about the sheer scale, the practicality of it all.
Right. Trying to control something as fast as the Akashic Records are described to be. And manipulating reality, history, future potentials across the entire globe, affecting billions of people. And doing it consistently without any major undeniable glitches, leaks, or smoking guns appearing. The sources argue that level of control just defies logic and likely exceeds any conceivable human or even non-human capability. Plus, for almost all the pieces of evidence the theorists use, there are strong, non-conspiratorial alternative explanations.
Like historical anomalies.
Could just be incomplete records, lost evidence due to disasters, the natural messy way civilizations rise and fall.
Chronicity.
Could be probability, selective attention, or maybe Jung's idea of non-causal connection, which isn't conspiratorial.
What's these?
Vague, open to interpretation, sometimes self-fulfilling or just plain wrong, and wealth and power. Often explained by existing economic systems, privilege, smart moves, and sometimes unethical behavior, but not necessarily cosmic cheating.
Okay, so despite this pretty significant lack of verifiable evidence and these strong counter-arguments, why does this theory persist? Why does it resonate so much with some people? What's the appeal?
The sources dig into the psychology and sociology behind it. There seems to be this powerful, maybe innate human desire for ultimate truth.
Answers.
Exactly. This theory offers a grand, unified explanation for everything: personal problems, global chaos, historical mysteries. It provides answers, however dark, in a world that often feels random and confusing. It also taps directly into that often very real, sometimes justified, distrust of elites and authority. It feeds the suspicion that powerful groups are hiding things, manipulating things for their own benefit.
And maybe it offers a weird kind of comfort, facing anxieties.
Possibly. When people feel powerless, overwhelmed by global events they can't control, or even just facing personal hardship, this theory gives a reason. It identifies an enemy.
Which is maybe less scary than random chaos.
Perhaps. It provides a narrative. And ironically, there's a feeling of empowerment in believing you're aware of the conspiracy.
Right, being awake.
Yeah. You feel like you see the hidden strings, that you're in the know, compared to the sheeple who are supposedly being manipulated. That can feel empowering, even if the knowledge itself is terrifying. It's also this unique blend, isn't it? A fusion of spirituality and paranoia. Which appeals strongly to a certain mindset, people who are genuinely seeking deeper spiritual meaning, but are also deeply suspicious of the established world.
And it creates a very coherent story.
It really does. It takes all these disparate things, weird historical facts, personal coincidences, those shared false memories, political anxieties, and weaves them into a single grand overarching narrative. It provides a seemingly logical, though frightening worldview that makes sense of the noise for believers.
And let's face it, the what-if factor, it's just incredibly compelling, isn't it?
Totally. The sheer cosmic scale of it, controlling reality itself, rewriting history, the implications for free will, for human destiny. I mean, even if you dismiss it as a thought experiment, it's undeniably captivating and deeply unsettling. What if our reality wasn't entirely ours?
So wrapping this up, what does it all mean? We've taken this deep dive, starting with the truly profound traditional concept of the Akashic Records, this cosmic library of everything.
Right.
And then we explored this really striking conspiracy theory built entirely on the claim that those same records are secretly controlled, manipulated, rewritten to shape reality and essentially enslave human consciousness.
We've definitely seen that stark contrast between the original spiritual concept meant for growth, understanding, healing, and this terrifying narrative of hidden control, fake history, pre-programmed futures that the conspiracy theory presents based on the source material.
And we've laid out the counter-arguments, the significant lack of verifiable evidence for these conspiracy claims, alongside those strong alternative explanations, especially from psychology, about how memory works, how our brains find patterns.
Yeah, those cognitive biases and the reconstructive nature of memory offer compelling, non-conspiratorial ways to understand phenomena like the Mandela effect.
It's a really powerful example, isn't it? How the human mind can hold these incredibly elevated spiritual possibilities and at the same time project its deepest fears of being controlled, manipulated onto those very same concepts.
It really is. It shows that duality.
So the source material kind of leaves us hanging with this unsettling question. When you experience déjà vu next time, or you notice one of those historical details that just feels off somehow, ask yourself, is this really a glitch in a controlled reality, a sign that timelines are being messed with?
Or is it, maybe, just a fascinating trick of your own mind? A quirk of memory, perception, or pattern recognition telling us more about how our amazing brains work than about some vast cosmic conspiracy. The sources lay out the chilling possibility, but ultimately they leave you, the listener, to ponder that mystery.